Hi, guys. Welcome to our second week of Latin Roots word study. Um, First week, we probably were pretty familiar, at least with aqua. We have three this week, so let's jump in and look at what we've got. So the three we have this week are aud, bene, and be. Let's look at aud. Now, in English, as in Latin, when two vowels are put together, they tend to color each other or change the sound. And in Latin, at least some pronunciations, the diphthong AU was typically pronounced like, as in the word found. Okay, so it would be aud. Now in English, this word, we have changed the sound of the diphthong to be aw, as in odd. So our English words that are deriving from aud are going to sound a little different. We're going to say aw instead of ow. So there you go. There's a phonetics lesson for you for today. Okay. The root word, we use this a lot in English, and it means, aud means sound. The noun form means sound. So we get words like auditorium, which, if I said go to the auditorium, you would know that that means it's the part of the building where you would go sit and listen to something. You would hear sound, maybe a speaker, maybe a concert, but nonetheless, it's an auditorium. And it looks like over here in my bookmark, I've got to go back and put in the U. It's hard for me to see. Okay, I'll fix that. Another word we get from the root aud is audio. And audio is literally sound, like an audio system. It's a sound system. There's a lot of them you could find. One more that I thought would be good would be audition. And an audition can mean two things. Audition is that sense of hearing you have that audiologists will study. Audition can also mean a performance. So it has two different meanings. Now, I want to give you a word of caution. Notice that these are nouns, okay? Many of our verb or action words in English come from a different root word called audare, meaning to hear. Okay, so now, and some of our nouns derive from audare, to hear. So an example would be audibility. So loud enough to be heard. Are you audible? Are you loud enough to be heard? So instead of saying, I can't hear you, you're not speaking loud enough, you could say, you are not audible for me to hear. Okay, so anyway, vocabulary is cool. Vocabulary gives you power to really flex your expressive muscles, and so that's why we're studying these words. So don't forget aud, sound. Okay, another one is bene, and you'll hear even in Italy, you'll hear bene, and it just means good or well. And there's a superlative form, which means when you're going up a rank, like better and best. And the superlative form is the absolute best you can get, okay, or the highest degree. And so the root bene changes to optime, which means I'm like as good as it can get, okay? For English, we have lots of words with the B-E-N-E root in it. Beneficial, benefit, benign, benevolent. And you've probably heard a lot of these. Beneficial, of course. The reason why I'm putting these in here is because they're similar in meaning, but just different enough that they can be used in different contexts for meaning. So beneficial, yes, it means it's good, but it really means you're producing a good effect. Whereas benefit, it's not that you're producing, but it's that it's promoting well-being. And then benign, I know most of us have heard malignant and benign, where you've heard people say, oh, it's a benign tumor or it's a malignant tumor. And so I wanted to make sure you understood what the word benign means. Benign literally means it's gracious, it's gentle, it's kind. So a benign tumor means it's not going to hurt you. Okay, where a malignant means the opposite. And then going back to benefit and beneficial, you get a similar word called benevolent. And that's not producing or promoting, it's demonstrating or showing goodwill or being kind. So that's a pretty cool word. You know, we always give a thumbs up for good or like. It kind of reminds me of the little Facebook, right? It's bene, it's good, I like it. Our last one is be, which that's the Latin. We have turned it into the long I sound for English, I. And the reason why we pronounce it differently is because we have a rule-based system that when you have a vowel ending a syllable, it's called an open syllable. And when it's an open syllable, we use the long sound of the vowel. I, for example, instead of I. So be in Latin, we've turned to by in English because of that rule. And be or by in English means to. So you guys could think of all kinds of words that are familiar to you with this root word. Bicycle, binoculars. Notice that be in binoculars instead of binoculars. Of course, the Englishman over across the pond would disagree with that. But I wanted to share with you some other words that you're going to hear a lot, maybe in school or in other contexts, that's a little trickier than those common by words. Let's look at the word bicep. Okay, we all probably could grab our arm and know where our bicep is. We have a tricep and a bicep. What does bicep mean? Okay, guys, it literally means a muscle having how many? 2 heads. Okay, so tricep obviously would be a muscle having 3 heads. Okay, and it sounds like this fancy name, and then you look at what the meaning is and it makes you giggle. All right, bifurcate. It means to divide into 2 branches. Okay, and then you have bilateral. So lateral meaning side and bi meaning 2. So having 2 sides. So especially when you get into dissection in your biology class and it says make a cut where you have a bilateral dissection, then you know you need to have 2 sides. We use the word bilateral a lot in the sciences. So, biconditional. This is one you will see a lot in law. You'll see it in any kind of philosophical discussion. This word is actually very common in scholastic work, biconditional. And what that means is that there's basically two conditions or two propositions that are relying on each other. And if one is true, the other has to be true. Okay? So it's a statement, a logical statement, or a statement in the study of logic composed of two statements or propositions, and each of them, one has to be true for the other to be true. So they're dependent on each other. And you'll see this in geometry as well. So those are our words for this week. We have odd, meaning sound, or oud, excuse me, odd for English. We have bene, meaning good or well, and its superlative form is optime. And we have b or by, meaning two. So now we have 5 root words. So we're getting close to being able to maybe play some vocabulary games to practice, but make sure you print them out, color them up after you filled them in, and bring them to class with your parent's signature that you guys have, they have quizzed you on these, and you're just getting very familiar with these root words. Don't spend 30 minutes on it. This is intended to be a warm-up type exercise, a couple of minutes each day. All right, I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.